Okay. um, so it has been suggested to me by one person to well, there was a question about the meditations, whether we could go right away into questions rather than doing the meditation. So,
No.
given that the question has been brought up, I bring it up. So maybe we'll see where that goes. But anyways, that question is up and I'm sort of looking at it. Now, although the meditation is what we are, not anything that we do, most often for many of us, the mind is very active, is engaged, and is sort of veiling the peace of our true nature. So the peace of our true nature is this effortless meditation. So for now, let's welcome ourselves as this effortless meditation, this effortless peace of being. And you do so by simply resting. Resting is not pursuing anything which arises to you. That which arises to you is thoughts and memories and feelings, things that you should do or you didn't do. And resting is simply allowing whatever arises to be, whichever way it is, without any activity on your part. And you turn your attention towards the peace, the stillness, the causeless equanimity of being. In this equanimity and as this peace, you are the peace. Not somebody who's experiencing the peace or not somebody who is in peace. Rather, the stillness, the inner tranquility is revealed to be yourself, your very self. You invite whatever arises to you to rest at the heart, at the core of your being. At the core of your being is the stillness, the freedom, the joy. And as this peace, there are no distinctions. We are one as this presence. Which appears to us as this appearance right now. This presence which I know as I. I does not refer to an object. Does not refer to something I perceive. Does not refer to a feeling which appears to me. I does not refer to a memory or an image. Images appear to me, they appear. Within awareness, out of awareness. It's as if awareness takes on the form of an image, like in this very moment, takes on the form of a hearing, or the form of a heartbeat. Or the form of the gentle movement of the breath. What am I in the midst of all of that? Am I not in the spaciousness of awareness? What is it that perceives this moment, this perception? Is it not I, this transparent, aware presence? You know yourself as I awareness. You know yourself as this reality. Which is the reality of every thought you perceive, every sensation. Every perception you perceive. In this understanding, there are no problems, are there? The understanding that I am the infinite, invisible reality. Which is always there, irrespective of what is appearing, irrespective of events in the world. I awareness is the constant. It is only when we imagine ourselves to be somebody in time and space, a son, a daughter, a father, mother, that we experience worries and concerns. This limited identification, which is not necessary, is it? In this moment of presence, there is no me and you. There's no demarcation line in consciousness that says this is here and that is there. a thought may appear saying, I am this, and he is that, and she is this. But thought, which does not arise out of wisdom, is ignorant. A thought which is not inspired by understanding is completely random. Infected by belief, unexamined belief, uninvestigated belief, which runs rampant in the mind. The belief that I am this mortal body mind, the belief in material reality. The reality is made out of separate objects, multiple realities. The ignorant belief that I am a male or a female form that completely overlooks the reality of I, this transparent, aware presence. Don't we love peace and happiness? Causeless peace. Because whatever has a cause, whatever is the product of a cause, is limited by the cause, is subject to the cause. You know deep down within yourself the freedom, the love, the beauty. Why do we place conditions upon ourselves? And then we experience a sense of limitation within, the sense of lack. Is happiness dependent on an experience? Or is it like the sun shining, maybe obscured by some clouds? What are these clouds that obscure happiness? believing that the conditions that thought imposes if only, yes, but why did he, why did she, why did I? But these thoughts are just like clouds, aren't they? Empty. They appear like some subtle forms. From a distance, a cloud seems so opaque, so dense. Is the wide open sky concerned about the clouds, trying to get rid of them or fix them? Is the wide open sky disturbed by clouds? What's in the way? What's in the way? You can take a look, can't you? So you can savor the sweetness, rejoice in your freedom, your innate freedom. Not tomorrow or next week, but to recognize in this moment the peace of being. In this peace we are one. There are no personal owners. There are no separate selves. In reality, it's an unhappy dream, this belief in separation. But what is the reality of a dream? Is it possible to live moment by moment without carrying with you the past, your stories, your past traumas, and what happened yesterday, last year, and 10 years ago? To be soaked in the freshness of being. Our stories, our personal stories, they're like movies. We get together and we share pieces of our movie. Blah, 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 blah. My movie, blah, 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 blah. Your movie, his movie, her movie. In a way, it's fine, it's okay, as long as you know yourself not to be a personal character within the movie. You are that which perceives, which the knowing screen, not a character in the movie. What makes you a character in the movie? Sometimes we believe that the movie is not possible without me being a character in the movie. And yet, look how the universe, the cosmos, operates and unfolds, galaxies and the weather, rain and sunshine. You don't even make your heart beat. You don't even make the breath. You witness the breath. You perceive the breath. But you don't make your lungs breathe. And yet, is there anything possible without awareness, without consciousness? When we look at our experience, it's very clear that there are perceptions and sensations and thoughts, moment by moment, different shapes, different colors, different sounds. It is also that which does not appear or disappear. Awareness. Awareness is not green, yellow, blue, red, tall or short, male or female. And yet it's the absolute reality of our experience, isn't it? And there's only one reality. Which we know as I. I my awareness, which is not limited by the oak tree in the yard. It's not limited by the sensation of your feet on the ground. It's not limited. Period. Okay, so if you have any questions, anything that you would like to explore, make sure you unmute your mic. So any questions?
Hi, Maggie.
Hello, George.
I've been reading recently about near-death experiences. I formerly knew nothing about them. Do you know anything about them and whether they are real and how they relate to non-duality? People relate having these experiences which they claim are more real than their current experiences. Do you know anything about them?
So in a way, there are a few things about NDE. And there are a variety of near-death experiences. So we're just talking in a limited way about it. So NDEs are mind experiences. Why are they mind experiences? Because there are forms, there are perceptions, sensations, experiences, but they are out of the ordinary mind experiences. The main thing about these mind experiences is that the experience within these mind experiences, the experience of I, of the self, is out of the ordinary. In our waking state, in our dream state, and to a certain extent in our deep sleep state, although the experiences vary during the waking state, they vary, but overall there is a certain familiarity with that variation. In the deep sleep state, in the dream state, mind experiences vary, but they can be quite surprising. They can go into places where we are not familiar. In the deep sleep state, seemingly there are no experiences that we can relate to. But throughout those states, the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state, the sense of self is relatively the same. It's the same in that the belief in separation and the sense of separation is there. This is what, for example, what we experience in nightmares. In the dream state, we experience nightmares sometimes. And the nightmares, they refer to the sense of me. Something's going to happen to me. And of course, in the waking state, we experience the negative emotions, the fears, the worries, the troubles, the anxiety, etc. So the sense of self is relatively unaltered, unchanged. The variations are within a certain spectrum. In the NDE, in near-death experience, which is a mind experience, what is quite different is that you have a different experience of your sense of self. And it varies, from NDE to NDE. Maybe the sense of self is expanded to be the entire universe. or the sense of self is expanded to be that I'm in many different places simultaneously, or the sense of self is dissolved and replaced by light or by whatever. I haven't been so much interested in the NDE experiences to make a catalog of the various NDE experiences. The NDE experience has an impact on the mind, in that the mind, which is sort of dormant or in some sort of stupor about the sense of self, I will come to questions in the chat room a little later. So while during the waking state and the dream state, the mind is sort of in a sort of within a certain definition of itself and feeling of itself. In the NDE state, you experience a sense of self that's beyond that dimension. And so the impact on the mind is that there is a crack in the belief structure. There is and the crack in the belief structure is not repairable. It's not a crack that you can repair. You can sort of shelf it in a way, still try to live your life as if nothing happened, but it's not really possible. There is an impact on your life because your mind has been altered by this experience. So in a way, one could say that the NDE is sort of a peak, can provide you a peak in beyond your structure, beyond your box, but does not necessarily mean that it liberates you from the sense of, from ignorance. It can alter, even in some cases, alter in a very pronounced and observable way your life and how you go on with your life, and the unhappiness that you're experiencing in your life can be relieved to a certain extent. But the main thing to comprehend is that it is not Nirvikalpa Samadhi, nor is it Sahaja Samadhi. It's not the complete liberation. Sometimes people have similar experiences on a psychedelic trip, where they experience, they have an experience beyond their mind, beyond the norm of their mind, beyond the structures of their mind, where they experience both, they can experience both their mind, meaning perceiving their mind and perceiving beyond. And that can have quite an impact on the mind. In some cases, it can totally freak out the mind, and there are quite a few cases where psychedelic experiences have led to an egoic neurosis. And of course, there are cases where it has opened the path onto the journey towards liberation.
One thing I read about is that many people report like they're on a gurney in the hospital and they report seeing themselves from above that.
Yes, yes.
Which seems to me rather unlikely without a mirror, you know. Anyhow, okay. I just wondering.
No, that's the body. The body appears to you, right? The body appears to you, and you sense yourself and you experience yourself inside the body due to that strong belief that I am the body.
Right.
That I consciousness am the body, so forth, that I am a product of the brain, or somehow I reside within the body. So that's a very, very, very common experience among the 7 billion human beings, or whatever billion human beings on this planet.
Right. Yes.
But in fact, the body appears to you. Everything appears to you. So if you look at your experience right now, you are outside of your experience, quotes unquote, outside of your experience. I say that with a little hesitancy, because I'm just saying that just in response to your comment that about perceiving yourself outside of your body. In fact, you're never outside or inside of anything. But
I understand. Yes.
Yeah. So it is our most common experience that things appear to us. Yes. So
yes.
That's familiar to you, that things appear to you, right?
Yes, it seems that things appear to me from this vantage point. That's the way it's here. Right.
Well, let's okay.
No, that's fine. No, I get it. Yes.
Things appear to you, but the things that are appearing to you, they're not, they're appearing to you, period. Whatever the you, whatever that is. Okay. There is a vantage point in terms of perception when it comes to the eyes or the nose or the ears. Yes.
That's what I meant. Yes.
Yeah. But the you, whatever the you is not the nose or the eyes. The eyes, are an object, and the ears are an object. The you is right. Whatever that is.
Right.
So things appear to you, whatever the you is.
Yes. No, I get it. But in these cases, these people's eyes are still on the table, okay? And they're viewing it as if their eyes were someplace else.
Yeah, right. Let's stay with us, with me and you. Forget about, So it is. Would you agree that it is a common experience for you that things appear to you?
Oh yes.
Yeah, and you being whatever that is.
Yes, right? No doubt. Yes.
So therefore. Now, the okay. So we perceive ourselves in a mirror, right? We perceive in the mirror. I perceive myself in the mirror, yes?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Now, when you look in the mirror, and maybe you can try that at some time, are you on this side or that side?
That's a great question. Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, all right. I mean, the perception, that's the question I never thought of. I mean, the perception, the illusion is that I'm on both sides. Okay. I mean, in fact, I'm not on either side. Okay. Anyhow, that's a great question.
Okay. So, yes, there are experiences that we can have, sometimes non-drug induced or non-NDE and near-death experience induced, where we experience ourself, outside of our body. Sometimes coming back from anesthesia may have a little bit of that sense of like that sort of coming back or waking back into, coming back to the body sort of a thing. But so these are obviously not our common experiences. Yes, and they give us a hint that we are not in the body. That we, meaning I, consciousness.
Right.
I mean, it's not in the body. And there are cases where we sort of experience that, sort of biting, we know we've had this experience. It's not a dream, Yeah, and the significance of these experiences is not in the experience itself, but what the understanding that may come from the experience. And the understanding may be conscious or subconscious. We may come to conscious understanding that, oh, gee, interesting. I can be in the body or out of the body. And that I know that from my experience. Or it can be unconscious, where you sort of, it, but it's not verbalized. It's not at the surface of your mind, but deeply you know it. At a deeper level, you know it. Now, at a deeper level, besides the NDE experience, we know we are not the body. Irrespective of this experience, we know it because we are consciousness. We are not the object. We're not the body that appears to us. We are the awareness. So irrespective of our belief systems and our feeling of being in this jail, there are no walls to the jail. There are no bars. There are no bars to the jail. The metaphor about the baby elephant with a rope.
Right. Yes.
You tie the and now the elephant is 4 tons but it still stays within 10 feet from the post, although.
Right.
So, but in some cases we have the gift of having an experience, and not just an experience outside of the body, but an experience of our true nature. And I am not aware of cases where people who had an NDE experience ended up working with a guide, with a teacher, but sooner or later they will.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And one more thing I want to say, it's not important to have such experiences or to have colorful insights, because insight can also be just made out of small understandings. There is nothing small about understanding, but I'm using the term small to contrast it with a colorful insight. And, wow, I was floating outside of my body and I came back to the body. It sounds like, wow. To the mind, it sounds like a big deal. You don't need to seek such experiences or pursue such experiences. All what is required is inquiry, investigation into your belief structure and applying your understanding, doing your best to live your understanding.
Very good. Thank you you again.
George. Okay. Let me see. There were a few comments. I just want to make sure. Let me see. Okay, Richard writes, since the topic arises, I prefer the meditation to be the beginning of our time together. Okay, Richard. Emmanuel. Okay. Jacob. Hello, Jacob. Jacob writes, so have you been totally free of fear, anxiety, sorrow, suffering, shame, guilt, confusion, and prejudice in daily life once and for all, now and forever? Pause, breathe, then look within, then respond yes or no. Okay, the answer is yes. Next question, Jacob, is what is speaking now? I am speaking now. I'm speaking now. Just you have to get some clarity about what I is. It is not the body-mind that is speaking. It is not the brain that is speaking. It is not Magdi that is speaking. It is I that is speaking. And it is that very same I that is hearing. Who is I? I is consciousness, awareness. Next, you write, can an outside agency ever totally be free of, can an outside agency ever totally free the mind? No, an outside agency cannot, well, let me say it another way. Okay, let's stay with this question. Can an outside agency ever totally free the mind? Okay, Jacob, it depends what you mean by an outside agency. I would say that there are no such thing as outside agencies. In our experience, there are no outside agencies. Like, for example, right now, here we are talking together. Are you an outside agency? Am I a chemical? Okay, I see a chemical you ingest. So can a chemical you ingest ever totally free the mind? In some cases, Jacob, a chemical, some people refer to chemical as medicine, they use the term medicine, can provide you a glimpse into yourself, a glimpse into the structure of the mind, and a glimpse into the freedom of being. But this does not mean that it can liberate. Liberation only comes from consciousness. Hold on, Jacob, because I'm reading down the questions, and you keep writing things. Just if you can just hold on for a minute, because I'm reading down the questions and the page is scrolling. Oh, Frank, you write, Dying to Be Me is a great book to read on this subject. Okay. And then Jacob writes, with which eyes are you looking? I am not looking with eyes. I don't look with eyes. I look at an oak tree with the eyes of the body, with the eyes of all bodies. I look at thoughts with the mind of bodies. But that which looks is not the eyes. That's an important thing to understand, Jacob, is what is it that perceives, not what is the tool with which I perceive. Okay, I'm going to, you're writing, is Magdi here now? Jacob, what you wanna get your audio so we can talk, because are you available to that, or do you have audio? Can you unmute yourself and we can? Oh, okay, cool. Okay, thank you. Let's do that, because it will be more, because I'm scrolling up this page and you're writing things down. It's a little technically, it's a little. Okay. Yeah, I would really. Let me see. One moment, if you don't mind, and. Oh, Jacob. Oh, hey. Okay, here you are, Jacob. One moment, if you don't mind. Let me just. Okay. Yes, Jacob. Okay. So I think your last question was: is Magdi here? Yes. Is that your question?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So Magdi, Magdi is what you're perceiving. Magdi right now, right? You're perceiving something which you call Magdi. No. Okay.
No,
So when you say is Magdi here, what are you referring by? What are you referring to? by Magdi?
Well, Magni is like Jacob, is like George, is like Richard. It's a bundle of memory. So I'm asking, is that bundle of memory acting now? Is it the one who's speaking? Is Jacob speaking now? Is Magni speaking, listening now? In other words, who's
Yes.
the speaker? Who's listening?
Yes. Yes.
And if there is a Jacob, and if there is a Magni, which is a bundle of memory, which is the past, which is a dead thing, is there listening? Is there communication? Is there a state of communion, which is nonverbal, non-intellectual, has nothing to do with the what I call the little mind,
right,
with thought. Like, it has nothing to do with thought.
Yes. So
which is it?
So there are a couple of levels here, Jacob. I cannot deny that you are wearing a red T-shirt and that you have earphones on. So there is a perception, and I recognize this perception. I recognize that there's a conversation. I recognize that. The I right now in this moment every moment is the same I. I is not a form. I is not an object. At least I'm just sharing my experience. Of course, I'm not. The I in this moment that perceives, quote unquote, Jacob, that perceives.
Is there a perceiver? That's the question.
I'm sorry?
Is there a perceiver?
Yes, absolutely.
That is the question. Is there a perceiver?
Yes.
Or there's just perception?
Well,
perceiving.
Yeah, okay. The way I speak about it is that there is no personal perceiver. There is no separate perceiver.
In other words, no filter, no interpreter, no experiencer, no recorder, no comparer. In other words, no Jacob, no Magdi. It's just perceiving, listening, sensation, but without thought interfering. Thought can put a word, a label to it, like this color shirt, but that comes after. First, perceiving, meaning the mind is completely silent. Then there's perceiving without the perceiver. And then that perception, which is the highest form of intelligence, can use thought to make a poem about my shirt or whatever. But that's secondary, and it's not the thing. Meaning whatever thought says is not the actuality of what's actually taking place. So am I aware of the activity of the me? What the me is doing, meaning it creates the sense of division where there is no division. It's an illusionary sense of, I don't feel close to you. I feel close to this person. I don't feel close to that person. It is acting as a filter, which limits, which colors, which shapes, which distorts all perception. So just to be aware of it, meaning is thought, can Jacob be aware of what Jacob is doing? And in that awareness, and then when Jacob sees all that, right? Jacob is going to see that eventually when it sees itself in the mirror that you were talking about. When it sees that, it sees the danger of that. But then what does Jacob do? Jacob says, I have to do something about it. So let me attend this class. Let me read this book. Let me do this ritual. Let me do this practice, X, Y, Z. In other words, Jacob is still continuing Jacob.
There is no reality to Jacob.
Well, if you see that, then it's finished.
When you're speaking about Jacob,
if you see that, then there's no more.
When you speak of Jacob sees this and Jacob does that, that's just an illusion. There is no Jacob that is doing anything. There is no separate reality that is called Jacob. There's nobody in my monitor. In your monitor.
In my monitor. Yeah, there's nobody here. Right. But there's an illusionary sense that there is me. And the me is always, meaning the action is always coming from Jacob. Perception is always coming from Jacob.
No. Action doesn't come from Jacob. It comes through Jacob. There is a belief.
Now you think there's something beyond.
There is a belief that action is coming from Jacob. In fact, when you look at action, let's say right now there is this movement of the hand, right? You say, well, this movement of the hand came from Jacob, meaning it came from Jacob's mind. Yes, so if it came from Jacob, that means it came from Jacob.
You're moving the hand. I'm not moving.
Magdi, okay.
Yeah, I'm not moving.
Let me just unfold the point that I'm.
In other words, it begs the question: who's moving the hand?
Well,
is Magdi moving the hand?
That's what I'm.
Or is something else moving the hand? And
well,
if it's something else, what will give birth to that something else? Or if it's already there, can we describe it, what it is?
Okay.
Even though we know that the word is not the thing.
Jacob, so let's focus on something so we can speak around something as opposed to speaking about everything within one question. It's not. Let's just, for example,
we would like at the end of this session to go back home totally free, liberated. That is what we want. Urgent. There's a sense of urgency. We see the danger, and we're saying not later. We're saying now. I must see it now, or forget it. I'm playing games. I'm not serious. So yes, there is a sense of urgency.
Well, if you want to see it now and there is a sense of urgency, then go for it.
But the danger wants to see it.
And go for it.
The danger demands it, not me. I don't.
Okay.
The me would rather go away and do something else. You see, the me is escaping all the time. But when there's an awareness of the danger itself says we must stop it. Like something must happen from the scene of the danger, from the awareness that there's no love, there's no peace, there's no joy, as long as there's this sense of division, right? There's danger. But now I wanted to say, I see the danger. Jacob sees the danger, but then Jacob says, there's a belief in Jacob that says, but I can't live without Jacob. I know this is all illusionary. If you see that already, then it's finished. But Jacob yet has not seen that. Meaning the entity, the program has not yet seen that. The program has gotten to the point of seeing the danger of Jacob, but it sees a greater danger in a belief that without the me, I can't function, I can't survive. The organism wants to survive, it's seeking security, right? And so that very belief prevents the calming down or the elimination or the withering away of the illusion of Jacob. Because now I'm just feeding Jacob because I feel I need it.
So Jacob,
we see that.
Having said all that, do you have a question?
My question is, do we see that?
Okay.
Do we see the fact of that's okay. Actually taking place? Now, we came here, right, seeking something, wanting something, right? Who is that's doing that? The program. So my question is, do we see that as a fact?
So, okay, so my question to you is, do you see that as a fact?
Yes.
Okay. So is there any other question?
Well, you raised the question of consciousness, and I asked, which consciousness?
There is only one consciousness.
Well, there's the consciousness of the memory.
I'm not talking about
memory.
I'm not talking about what is consciousness conscious of. I'm saying there is
not what is conscious of. Meaning
there is one consciousness.
No, the consciousness. There's the ordinary that we're all born into, right? Is the accumulation of memory. There's that consciousness.
That's not. Hold on. Let's define consciousness before we go on. Let's define consciousness.
I'm going into that.
Let's define consciousness. By consciousness, I'm referring to the reality that's perceiving this perception right now. Let me repeat that. By consciousness, I'm referring to whatever it is that truly perceives right now.
And that is the program. The program.
A program is something that you perceive. A program does not perceive. Let me.
In other words,
by consciousness,
there's no
I am
me.
referring to whatever it is that truly perceives right now. A program does not perceive.
That is a trick.
Program is
a trick of thought.
Operating
thought
system.
Separates itself. Thought says, I am, in other words, I use the word filter. That really is not accurate because it applies. When I said that, I shouldn't have said that because I have to realize the me is the filter. It's not me looking through the filter. I am the filter. I'm not in a prison. Yeah. I am the prison. And the I am is the accumulation of memory, which is always acting, thinking, interpreting,
Jacob,
looking at you.
Time out, Jacob, because you are new.
Now there's that consciousness.
Hold on, Jacob, time out.
That's one consciousness.
Time out. Okay, you are new to this meeting. It's the first time that we meet. Okay, so there are certain words that I use that it seems to me you use differently. So therefore, it's important for us to be speaking the same lingo. You know. So and that's just normal. I mean, because so. I make a distinction between I and me. By I refer to consciousness, meaning whatever the reality is that perceives right now. And by I am, I do not refer to I am Jacob or I am Magdi or I am here. That's more refers to the me, to the sense of personal self. So I'm very careful in remaining consistent with the language I use.
Right.
So that
I know you're separating out. See, the me, the I, is fragmented. It's broken up into pieces. And there's the me, the self, the higher self, the lower self, the Atman, the spark within. It's all the me. But one fragment takes the superior position and says, no. I'm not those other people, right? And I'm the controller, and I'm going to put order in things. It doesn't realize, it hasn't seen that I'm also a fragment of thought.
Jacob, what is your question? This right now.
So my question is, do we see this? The actuality of this? Meaning, there is no me separate from the I, the ego. It's all one movement, which is the movement of memory.
So you're asking the question, but let me, so the answer to your question, do we see this, is, do you see this? And you said that yes, you do see this. So that's good. That's good. We can move on then, because
but we haven't discussed the other consciousness.
The other what?
We haven't discussed the other consciousness. Meaning the consciousness I just described was the consciousness we were born into. Meaning, this robotic, mechanical way of living based on thinking, thought, right? So with the me is the program, and I'm always acting from the me. The organism identifying with the me and saying, that's me. It never sees itself. So in meditation, thought is becoming aware. The thinker, which is thought, is becoming aware of what it's doing. The thinker
is not thought. The thinker is not thought, Jacob. No, we speak in different language.
Oh, yeah. The thinker, there is an illusionary sense that the thinker is different from the thought. If you ask 100 people, they will agree with you. That's an illusion.
You are speaking so fast.
The thought invented the thinker. Thoughts came first. Thought invented the thinker.
Okay.
The experience invents the experience.
Let me ask you a question.
It's all memory. That's all it is.
Let me ask you a question. Okay. What do you perceive?
Looks like a tissue box.
Okay, so you're perceiving a perception, yes? It's perception. Call it tissue box, no problem. You're perceiving a perception, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, does that mean that there is a separate perceiver? What is it that's perceiving?
No, there is no perceiving with.
Well, you just said, I just asked you, do you perceive this? And you said it's whatever. You said it's a tissue box. So there is a perception, yes?
There's
you agree?
Perception and then thought. Wait. There's perception.
No, let's not take it to thought. There's a perception.
I'm going to explain it to you. There's a perception, which then gets translated by thought. Then thought says that's a tissue box.
Okay, forget about tissue box. Is there a perception?
There's only a perception if there's no perceiver.
Yes or no? Is there a perception?
You're talking about for me or for you?
Is there a perception? I'm asking, is there a perception? Do you hear the question? Do you hear the question?
I'm perceiving that thing that you're holding.
So there is a perception.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a perception.
Okay. So there is perceiving.
Yes.
There is perceiving.
Perceiving.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, in this perceiving, what the experience of perceiving, was there a Jacob?
No.
No, there was just perceiving.
Can't be. It's impossible.
Yes.
It's, Jacob is the denial of the perceiving.
So in this moment, consciousness took on the form of a perception. That's another way of saying it. It's just language. It's just language.
Yeah, I think you're using consciousness in the second way that I use it. Meaning, once the brain is totally free of Jacob, then this other thing, this other capacity comes into being. It wasn't there before. The baby does not have it. It comes into being when the little, I use the little letter consciousness as opposed to the big to distinguish between the two. Meaning normally there's the little letter consciousness operating. Once the brain is set free of its content, which is the consciousness. The content is the consciousness, meaning it is the interpreter, it is the judge, the censor, all of that. It is that activity. When all of that is wiped away, then there's this thing, what you're calling, I think, consciousness with the big C. It only operates when there's freedom. It only operates when the brain is free of Jacob. Jacob, not for a moment, but forever and ever and ever, never to return. It's kind of like seeing a card trick. Jacob is tricking you all the time. Once you see through the trick, it's finished. So in the same way, you see the trick of Magdi. You see what Magdi has done. It's finished. Like you said, there is no Magdi. You realize there's nothing there. So what you're saying is the illusion was creating these divisions for really no reason. There actually wasn't anything there in the first place, right? The problem was illusionary, and then the illusionary problem tried to fix the problem, which created more problems. So you say, I see all that, right? Then I ask you, what takes place then?
Okay, what takes place?
Each of us now are doing this right now.
Hold on, Jacob. Hold on. The understanding, the contemplation, the understanding, which it seems you're very involved in, leads to only one destination, which is peace and happiness, causeless peace and happiness. So my question to you, you seem to be very fervent and very much interested in the inquiry, is whether your understanding has delivered the causeless peace and happiness.
Yes.
Beautiful.
That was what I was going to say. That comes.
Okay.
When there's no me, then naturally, effortlessly, choicelessly, without seeking it, without wanting it, without demanding it, without trying to achieve it.
Yes.
It's just there. The thing that we call love, the thing that thought calls peace, which is not peace, the thing that it calls joy, which is not joy, it is just there. Okay. Effortlessly. Yeah.
So first, I am glad that the understanding has delivered peace and happiness to you. I would just say that you seem...
Ask the others. Are they seeing it? Ask the others.
You seem...
Help them.
You seem to be very energetic. I would say...
Well, that's one of the signs that you've been set free, because energy is released. In the stillness,
that almost stirred up.
Which we call compassion, passion for all beings.
Yes,
it's a tremendous energy. I'm holding it back. I hope it doesn't bother you too much. I'm holding it back. Believe me, I'm holding it back.
Well, for me, I can sort of be transparent to all of it. I'm not sure how everybody else takes it. You're very energetic, maybe a little bit too much, but that's just my little take on it. Thank you for your input, Jacob.
But ask the others, do they see it? Do they see what we're seeing? Do they see it? Help them to see.
Well, there is a way of engaging, that is my way. And of course, there is a way of engaging that is other people's way. I invite people to engage in the way they feel comfortable and that I feel comfortable with. So any questions, anybody?
So Maggie, I do have a question.
Hey, Frank. Yes.
Yeah, well, I feel like I just have to put this out there. I just feel like I'm like a real babe in the woods when it comes to non-duality. So any question I may have is going to be pretty pedestrian to you for you guys that are more advanced.
No. I'm not buying that little intro that you did, Frank.
Oh.
Go ahead with your question.
I guess I'm trying to save myself from embarrassment. But anyway,
nice
thanks. Anyway, thanks for being understanding. You have a question. I was listening to a guy named Fred Davis. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's an interesting character. He's on YouTube, and he talked about something that really kind of threw me, because I've been listening to you, Maggie, and other people, and we always talk about consciousness as being, the primary anything. It's like it's there before anything else. And he says there's something beyond consciousness. There was something there beyond consciousness, because that's why we don't remember before birth or after death. And well, I mean, of course, we're not going to remember after death, but we don't remember anything before birth. And that's always something that's always really kind of been sticking in my craw. I've never really fully understood why we don't remember if we're consciousness and we're there before anything, before the body's there. Why don't we have any memory of that? And he says it's because, so that's my question. And secondly, what do you think about what he says about there being something beyond consciousness, something being primary to consciousness?
There are some people who have experiences or have shared experiences of some other lives. It's been documented. I haven't been too interested in that. And also it's very evident that consciousness is not interested in remembering everything, because if it was interested in remembering everything, you would remember what you had for breakfast on January 24 of the year 2012. Obviously, you don't remember what you had for breakfast that time, and yet you were there, you witnessed as consciousness, you were aware, as awareness, you were aware of what you had for breakfast. And obviously, consciousness is not interested in remembering that stuff. If consciousness was interested in remembering what you had for breakfast 20 years ago, it would. It would. And the question is, why doesn't consciousness choose to remember my experiences when I was 2 hours old or 6 hours old, meaning the body was 4 hours old or 2 weeks old or 10 weeks old? Because it doesn't matter that much for consciousness to remember the stuff. What for? Why? I mean, consciousness is not in the memory business, in the remembering business. The fact that consciousness does not remember what appeared on, doesn't hold on or bring up the memory of what appeared in the year 2012, is irrelevant to the reality of consciousness. In other words, if you have electric current, the electric grid in this house, okay, and the current is running throughout the entire grid, in the entire city, and in one building downtown, the current is never turned on. The place is vacant, okay, and the current is never turned on. The lights are never turned on. The switch is never turned on. Does not mean that the electric grid isn't running in that building, as a metaphor. Okay, it's just a metaphor. Okay, the fact that the wide open sky is available to all sorts of clouds, and then you come back a week later, all the clouds that were there a week ago are gone. There is no memory, no trace of them. There isn't a trace in the sky, of the clouds. Doesn't mean that, doesn't have any relevance to the reality of the wide open sky. So whoever is saying, well, wait a minute, the fact that consciousness isn't remembering this and that and that and that and that and that proves something about consciousness, doesn't make sense. Consciousness stands on its own, of its own. It does not require to be a depository of zillions of events and memories and thoughts and perceptions and feelings. Right now, over the past hour, you probably had 20 or 30 sensations, maybe 100 thoughts appear to you. Consciousness doesn't give a hoot about the thought that you had 4 seconds ago or an hour ago. If it did, it would accumulate them and it would create a database of all of these thoughts. And in some cases, it has proven that if it wants to, it does that. There are people who are psychic, for example. You come to them and they tell you some things about your sister when she was 15 years old. On such a date, this and that happened to her, and they didn't even know your sister. They were living in Tanzania during that time. So it's not like they had any personal information about you or your life or anything like that. How do you explain that? It's obviously consciousness that is choosing out of its freedom to download a certain very specific experience that happened maybe 20 years ago to somebody, a member of your family that you were aware of, into this person's mind, the psychic's mind. You follow? So, okay. Coming back to the question about, is there anything before consciousness? Yes, depending on how you define consciousness. If you define consciousness as an appearance, as an event, there is something that perceives, that perceives, the perception is something that perceives this. So is there anything that precedes the mind? Yes, there is, which I refer to as consciousness. Now, this fellow, John Davis, whoever it is, if he's referring to it, that there is something prior to consciousness, I would ask this person to please define consciousness. I define consciousness in a very, very specific way that, in accordance with my understanding and also as Francis teaches it, that consciousness refers to reality. Right now, even though our experience may be an illusion, or maybe there is hypnotic, maybe we're having a hypnotic experience right now. Although our experience, our perception right now may be illusion, there is a reality that perceives, even a dream, there is a reality that perceives the dream. When you dream of a unicorn, right? There is no unicorn, but there is a reality that is dreaming unicorn, that's perceiving the unicorn. That's dreaming the unicorn and perceiving it, right? Mm-hmm. That is what I refer to by consciousness. Whatever it is that right now hears these words, whatever it is that in this moment knows that it is and is aware. Now, is there another reality beyond that? Bigger than that? Or, you know what? Maybe. And if there is, who cares? Who cares? It has no significance to us. If there are 50,000 other realities that out there somewhere that somehow have nothing to do with our reality, who cares?
Yeah, well, this is a huge topic, I know, because I get lost in the whole idea of trying to figure out what consciousness is and how it even got there, and the whole idea of creation and all.
You cannot figure out consciousness as an experience, because consciousness is that which is experiencing right now. It's not an object. You can figure out what is, how this particular thought arise to you, or you can figure out how did the oak tree appear here. You can figure out something that you perceive. You can study scientifically. You can try to figure out the relationship of how things unfold, how they relate. But in terms of what I am, what is reality, you cannot figure it out objectively. But reality, consciousness, because you are conscious. Because right now, there is something rather than nothing. maybe that which you're perceiving right now, this conversation we're having, is a dream, but something perceives that dream, and that you know that not because you figured it out, but because you have a direct experience of that. You are that. You follow?
Yes, I follow on probably a very superficial level. Do you have a good sense of there being nothing before consciousness ever came into being? There was nothing there.
Wait. Jack, what you said before consciousness came into being? What experience do you have of consciousness coming into being? Because I don't want to talk la la land with you. I want to talk, apples and bananas. I want to ground me. I want to be grounded with you. So you said before consciousness came into being.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I don't have an experience of that. Can you tell me what are you talking about when you say before consciousness came into being?
Well, there had to be some kind of a spark or something that got it going.
No. I don't want to talk with you about what they had to be or what, no, I'm not, because I don't want to speculate. You're saying about consciousness coming into being. So obviously you know what you're talking about. So tell me, when you say consciousness came into being, tell me what are you talking about so I can be on the same page with you. I want to understand you. Otherwise,
I think I'm coming from the world of relative. What is that word? Relativity, where everything starts and ends. So maybe I have to go beyond that, or just give up the idea that I have to know where everything started, because there's probably no answer to that in the relative world, in the relative sense.
We both have an experience. We have an experience of the day and starting. Let's say we agreed that today the day started. Let's agree at 6 a.m. Okay, and that or let's say the movie. We agreed that we went to a movie, me and you, and the movie started at 11:30 and ended at 2 o'clock. Okay, we have an experience of that. Okay, we have the brochure that says movie starts 11:30, ends at 2. Okay, and we have an experience because we were there, and we met at 11:25 and had a beer together before going to the movie. So we have that experience. So we can both say, yes, the movie started 11:30, ended at 2. Okay.
Sorry.
Video. Yeah. Now, my question to you is, what experience do you have of consciousness starting January 4, 1999? What experience do you have of consciousness starting?
I don't have any experience with that.
You don't have any. We don't have any experience. It's purely theoretical. It is just a belief, because as far as I've looked, I have not found anybody who has an experience of consciousness starting. But I've met a lot of people who have that belief. They have that belief that consciousness started when the body was born, or it started when the fetus was a week old, or when the sperm thought, oh, gee, I want to go after this ovum. That's when consciousness. These are all stories. So I cannot engage in a serious conversation with you or with anybody about consciousness starting, except if we both come to an understanding of what we mean by consciousness starting. I have no problem, Frank, with the body starting. This body on the birth certificate, because it was born such and such a date, such and such a place. But that is not evidence. For me, I don't have any experience of that, nor is there any evidence that the birth of a body means the birth of consciousness. That is the belief. In ignorance, we believe that consciousness is born when the body is born. It's a story.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that either. I don't see how that could be.
So we cannot talk with a straight face about consciousness starting. We can't.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Thanks, Maggie. This is huge. And I do have more questions, but I'm going to wait till next time.
Okay, all right.
Thank-
Okay. Thanks, Frank. Okay, see you, Frank. Okay. Okay. Any questions?
Hello, hello, Magdi. John.
Yeah. Hello, John.
Hi.
Yes, John.
A very spirited discussion today. I was going to ask. This is a question, or for you to talk a little bit about. Sometimes, like I think during the meditation, I'm probably not going to get this straight. I shouldn't even ask if I don't have it all straight in my head, but I'm going to anyway.
Okay.
This thing of, obviously saying consciousness, knowing consciousness, or just knowing. Obviously, on the conceptual level, on the mental level, it's two. You could say that. Okay, well. There's not two. So in a way, my question is, can you kind of, and then I know people are talking about consciousness and one consciousness and another consciousness and one level and this level and all that other kind of stuff. But I'm not, that seems to go on. But for me, it seems to just, I could go on with that forever, I suppose. But so that I can't, it's difficult to stay with that. But I think this knowing of consciousness, sometimes if you take away the words and the language and all that, and to speak about it later, in a sense, is that the words that work for me is being, sort of. It's just one uses the word that there's knowing or there's being, but even saying that, it's like it sort of divides, when you use two beings. But it is, I think it's, to explain that is my glimpses of that peace, what's called peace and happiness, causeless peace and happiness, or that rest, or stillness. And so there really isn't you could say there isn't even a consciousness, I suppose, in a sense. It just is. But I'm just talking. But I guess maybe if you can go over that, I guess I'm trying to ask about, sometimes there's these glimpses, and I can come back and say this was an experience. But of course, Francis and you and everybody else would end up talking about it's non-phenomenal, and I think that's really what I'm getting at. It's non-phenomenal, so in a way, it doesn't matter whether one calls it this or that or whatever. So I don't know. Maybe you can explain that. Or
John,
right.
If you look at your experience in this moment.
Can you do the volume a little bit? Sometimes
yes. Yes, one moment. Let me see. I think, is it up here? Okay, yes, okay. So if you look at your experience in this moment, John, there is a perception, okay? You could say it is phenomenal. Phenomenal meaning that there is, quotes unquote, an appearance, something that's appearing to you. And so we say it's phenomenal. And the phenomenal aspect of our experience, and before I go into that, that appearance that appears to you consciousness, you awareness, you being this aware presence. Yes, or you agree with me there? Yes, that
It appears.
Yeah, it appears, but it's known. It's not appearing in a vacuum. It's not appearing.
Right.
It's appearing, and I perceive it.
I'm just trying to let you know where I'm at on this, because you asked me.
Oh,
You asked.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to actually explain it in words, but in a sense, is one can say there's a knowing. So I'm speaking from. Am I speaking from a language that says I, me is knowing, or is it consciousness of knowing, or is it just isness? You know, so that knowing has no words or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
So there is an appearance, and there is, let's say, something beyond words.
Okay.
That perceives it.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So one could say that, and this is here now we're getting definitional, okay? That a phenomenal experience is whatever it is, whatever it is that perceives, okay? Sure. Let's call it, we usually call it I, but what do you want to call, let's call it, I don't want to use the word.
Let's call it isness, because it's here. It's here.
Okay. So there is an isness that perceives, all right? It perceives, whatever that isness is. Now, phenomenal experience is this isness in the presence of a perception. Because
say that again. Say that. I'm sorry, Maggie. This isness in the what?
I'm saying the phenomenal experience.
Yes.
Is isness perceiving a perception.
Okay, we can say that.
Yes. Now that would be a phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
There is another type of experience.
Yes.
Which we refer to, sometimes I refer to as a noumenal experience.
Yes. Yeah.
A noumenal experience is that same isness. The same isness. Yeah. Yes. Knowing that it is.
All right, say that over again.
Okay. A noumenal experience,
yes,
a noumenal experience where this isness is not perceiving a perception, rather it is, quotes unquote, I'm putting quote, perceiving itself, knowing itself, being itself.
Yeah.
Knowing that it is.
Yeah.
So there is the experience of, I perceive a tree, I perceive the oak tree, I perceive the rainfall, which is a phenomenal experience. And there is the experience of, I know I am. Not I know I am Magdi or I know I am John. No, just I know I am. Isness knowing itself.
Sure.
Okay, so both of these experiences are experiences of isness. One is phenomenal and one is noumenal. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, the phenomenal experience is where isness is perceiving a perception, right? Yes?
Yeah, sure.
Now, this perception that isness is perceiving is not outside of isness.
Right.
It is made out of isness.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the phenomenal experience. The phenomenal experience is isness perceiving a perception which is nothing else but itself.
Mm-hmm.
So one could say that the phenomenal experience is nothing else but isness taking on the form of a perception. And the noumenal experience is isness really doing nothing, just being itself.
Right.
Which it does 24/7 without any effort.
Right. Yes. Okay. Yes.
So,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So another way of saying it is that this isness at rest is nominal. And in motion, as a way of speaking, it's not moving, but
Sure.
in motion, or as it dances, it's phenomenal experience. It's just a way of speaking, because in fact, what we're talking about is beyond language, but we're speaking using the relative language to sort of come to the understanding. So then we could say that our experience is the experience of isness at rest and in motion, which is the Shiva and the Shakti. Shiva being isness at rest, and Shakti being isness in the dance of Shiva, in movement, in action, in manifestation, in existence. You follow?
So then this next question then is, because I'm seeing little things. I have a little telephone, so I don't see a lot, but I'm seeing little flashes of text coming up and modifier and this and that and all that kind of stuff.
Let's just stay with our conversation.
I am, so what you're saying is, I think this idea is that somehow we try to label things, whether we label things consciousness or isness or whatever, that's what we're doing. But there's, I guess, when Francis, you and you guys talk about perceptions, thought, and so forth and so on. Yes, there's thought dividing, and it will always divide. And there's perceptions and stuff like that. And yet one can say, we can get into what is real and what isn't real, or what is an illusion and what is not. But in the end, I think I'm not as interested in the trying to explain it to any degree of certainly proving it, and also even making anybody else know anything. But I'm more interested in just that there's still seems to be this person, as well as conscious. It's moving towards itself, but it's the idea that stillness, that isness, what'd you call it again? The luminous.
Okay.
No, I forgot the word, but anyway, numinal.
Numinal. Yes.
Those types of things, to me, I can express them, later, and that's what I'm doing now. I can express them later as what then maybe even the body feels, or it has an expression on the effect on the body, that there's this total fullness, peace, stillness, and some people say an emptiness and so forth and so on. But I guess I'm sort of moving in that direction. I guess what I'm saying is sometimes it's confusing when I do hear the language that, is double in my view. Sometimes it seems, even though that's the way you have to do it, you have to do language. But what seems to be is is simply that peace that then doesn't even need to be explained or doesn't even need to be talked about.
Yes, John.
You know.
So there are two aspects to the non-dual study, which is the understanding about consciousness and
Yes.
the peace of being. So
Yeah.
I got you that you feel more drawn to the peace of being. That's very good, very, very important. But it's important that the mind be liberated from false beliefs, or from beliefs, let's say false beliefs.
Sure.
So these two aspects, one being the understanding at the mind level. The understanding is important, and the process of understanding is getting clarity about the false. 2 + 2 is not equal 5. And of course the peace of being at the feeling level, at the living level, not just at the feeling level, but being livingly, or the peace of being living itself through you. These two aspects, they go hand in hand.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. That's there, and that's there. I'm with you on that, because a lot of this does now point to when I read like Francis and Rupert and listen to you, and a lot of times, and I guess I'm supposing this happens to most so-called persons, minds, thoughts, or whatever, is that there is this trying to understand, and yet, one could say that there's no understanding to understand, yada, yada, yada. But the point is, for me, it does seem to be the experience is that a lot of times the mind starts to, I don't know, I could say, starts to drop some of its beliefs and drop some of the questions. It just starts to drop questioning things, because it's not needed.
I understand. John, it's a matter of navigating, for yourself between questions, study, getting maybe overburdened by the questions or by the readings. It's a matter of navigating between that, between the mind, the exploration at the mind level, and of course the inner peace. So and that is something that you develop a sense of when it's something is getting too boggled for you, and just sort of, it feels like it's getting too opaque to the extent that it's interfering with your peace of being. That then it's for you to sort of look at whether you need to go further in that direction, maybe ask a question somewhere else, or a different type of question, or maybe you just want to shelve it for now. So yes, sometimes you can shelve a certain inquiry that's going on if it becomes too obscure, and then at some point the dust settles, and the question that was within all this turmoil will arise. And then when that question arises, then you can explore that question.
Yeah, I think what seems to be happening is that when I do hear this, and things tend to get to what I mean, not maybe for everybody else, but for me, sometimes begins to get a little too sort of mental, a little bit too conceptual, a little bit moving in that direction. And my mind starts to hang on to that. I have to just let go and listen and stuff like that. But I see also that, especially when I hear, I guess sometimes I stick with particular people who are talking about this, and that's you and Francis and Rupert. But sometimes when I hear others, things will move on to all these different other wild, I don't know, I should call them wild things, but they move on to different things. And that's where I think I experienced then that thing of, you know what, it is just the peace and happiness. I follow the idea of that, the thoughts and meditations and trying to define everything. And for me, it's easy to start getting into that and getting lost into all of that, or trying to.
You know, John, not all teachings are for you. There are some teachings that resonate for you, some other teachings that are insignificant to you, or some other teachings that you've already been there, done that. So it is important at some point in time to sort of you're no longer visiting every supermarket. You know,
it's not like that, but it is that sometimes I'll hear something, and that is what happens. Is that I mean, even in those where people are talking about things, even those things, something happens that I could say resonates, and one say brings me to a glimpse or whatever. But in the long run, I follow. I have to say that I follow the teachings of you and Francis and Rupert. So because that seems to bring me, well, whatever it does, that seems to resonate and work for me. So that's all I can say. I don't, the mental stuff, the conceptual stuff goes on and on and on. It can go on and on and on and on, you know? Right. So, you know, well, I guess you used the word energetic. I could get pretty energetic about it, but anyway, thank you, Mike.
Okay, John. Yes, nice talking to you. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
So, any questions? Okay, well.
Can we explore something? Like an experiment, do an experiment now? Not
well,
complicated.
4 o'clock is, you know, time is off. Is it something very brief or?
Yes, it will take, I would say 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Okay, we can possibly do that. Let me see what you are talking about, Jacob.
Yeah. So everyone think of someone that they feel very close to, that they have a lot of affection.
Oh, okay. I see. So you want to conduct an experiment with everybody else. I think I'm going to skip that, Jacob, because that's not what we came here for. And I would not want to impose that on everybody without having everybody's approval before we go on with your experiment. So I think that I will put that on hold. Thank you all. Thank you, Jacob and John.
Thank you,
Charlie and Gloriana and Mina.
Thank you, Magdi.
Grace, yes, nice to see you, Mina, and Peter and Frank. I see you're driving. Be safe, Frank. Desmond.
Oh, well, thanks.
And Rahul and George. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lovely to be with you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
So,
Thanks,
Thank
Maggie.
you.
Thank you, Magdi. Thank you.
I'm gonna stay
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
love you, Magdi. Love you.